Thanks a lot. Thanks, Stefan. My name is Jim Durcan. I work for Jabil. I'm a product director there in the wireless sector. And I'm going to go through Jabil and manufacturing, basically, in the radio sector. And Jabil's probably one of the biggest companies in the world that most people have never heard of. I suspect some of the folks in this room, may have heard of Jabil more than many of the folks you might run into in your everyday lives. Jabil's kind of the company behind the company in terms of manufacturing for the largest brands in the world. From just a high-level perspective, U.S.-based company in St. Petersburg, Florida, large scale, $30+ billion a year in sales, very geographically distributed, more than 100 manufacturing locations worldwide, 250,000 employees, and huge amount of manufacturing space, more than 50 million square feet. Jabil's involved in many end markets, and like I said, you won't see a Jabil logo on products. Jabil manufactures for partners and for other companies, but Jabil is very involved in two broad areas. One is electronics manufacturing, segment we call the EMS. You'll see some of the end markets here. I'm in the 5G wireless and cloud division as part of EMS. There's also a DMS division, diversified manufacturing. Packaging, healthcare is part of that, automotive, and the like. EMS and DMS are approximately the same size, so approximately half the revenues. Just to give you a sense of the scale and to tie it into radio, which is the purpose of today's discussion, Jabil has manufacturing locations pretty much in every part of the world. Asia, Europe, Middle East, North America, and Latin America. From a radio perspective, Jabil has three large points of operation in Mexico, in India, in Pune, India, and also in China, and we also manufacture radio equipment in Eastern Europe, in Ukraine actually. And that facility is done better than can be expected at this point, so we're pulling for them. But large geographic footprint, and this affords a lot of scale and scope across the supply chain, distribution perspective, and also working with customers depending on where they're located. We can tailor manufacturing to meet cost objectives. From a 5G wireless and cloud perspective, to give a little bit of scale, the revenues the last fiscal year across both those sectors were about $6 billion. A large part of that is in the wireless manufacturing of macro radios for 4G and 5G. You'll see listed some of the customers on the right. So this is a big business. Radio is a big business for Jabil. And Jabil, Stefan was showing aggregate radio volumes. Jabil's probably in the top one or two radio manufacturers in the world for macro scale radios at this point, other than manufacture at the large integrated companies like some in China. Jabil in the sector also is involved with a number of other areas, optical, networking systems, as well as cloud equipment. And Bijan is probably well aware of much of that from an OCP perspective. but I'm here to discuss the wireless component. From the standpoint of, well, what does Jabil do in wireless and wireless radios? Jabil's been manufacturing radios starting really with 4G radios for well more than 10 years. And the business has evolved from starting from what we call a build-to-print perspective, traditional EMS, where customer will provide a design package. Jabil will then manufacture various portions of that radio, largely circuit cards, do integration and assembly, final test, delivery, and the like. Part of the reason Jabil has been successful in radio is not just from a manufacturing perspective, but also the ability to add value to customers. And that helps with cost, that helps with quality. As you can imagine, if you're selling millions of radios over the years, the reliability of those radios becomes essential. It's an important part to the operator. It's also a very important part to the OEM that is selling the radios and servicing them to the operators. Jabil provides a number of value-added services in this traditional EMS model along the lines of DFX, which is basically designed for fill in the blank. It's manufacturability, it's designed for cost, designed for reliability. We help companies who come to Jabil to looking for manufacturing services to improve their products, to help lower costs and reduce supply chain headaches. Jabil also provides a full suite of services. I touched on some of those manufacturing tests. I'll talk a little bit about that. Jabil, from a supply chain perspective, is very active in terms of trying to help reduce the bill of material price for products. And kind of a hidden portion here, NPI support is very crucial, new product introduction. That's where you're basically taking very early stage product production or manufacturing and really working out the kinks so that you can bring it to high volume cost effectively. And that's an important component of being able to support tier one operator space and OEMs. Jabil also, over time, through this philosophy of adding value for the customers, has been providing joint development and manufacturing services as well, where Jabil will work with the OEM to actually do portions of the design, and those can be done for a variety of reasons. Many times it can be done at lower cost. Companies may not have the expertise across all of the product development spaces, or there's a resource constraint. As we've seen going from 4G to 5G, the number of bands, frequency bands, has proliferated. In the US, there used to be 3 or 4 or 5 bands. You know, worldwide, there's well over 100 bands now when you look through the 3GPP documents. And all those frequency variants require product adaptation and design, and that becomes a large resource constraint. So Jabil is able to help change frequencies and really bring products to market quicker. And then from an ODM perspective, Jabil will work with companies who need design services, a variety of design services, including the ability to design products for them, and they would then bring those to market. A big part, so I touched on some of the key aspects of manufacturing. Supply chain is one of the biggest pieces of that. When you think about the number of components that go into a radio, it can be in the thousands, and the number of different frequency bands, you're looking at well over hundreds of thousands of different types of components. And in terms of the number of components that you would touch during a manufacturing, it can be in the billions. So supply chain management is important. It's something that Jabil has spent a lot of time to optimize, and consists of a set of processes and tools that span very early on portion of component engineering and procurement, all the way through sustaining and end-of-life planning. I touched on the scale. This provides a few data points that you might find interesting in terms of the number of suppliers that large manufacturers have to work with, the number of parts. As you can imagine, spending $30 billion on components each year provides a large amount of leverage and the ability to help customers, Jabil's customers, get the lowest possible price and the most cost effectiveness. The supply chain leading into procurement, I think we touched on many of these, but Jabil will negotiate with component providers, has developed tools to track and manage components and do end-of-life planning, and then have all the key metrics and operating performance metrics to ensure that the production line keeps going. Test is another big area of the production process. There's many different levels of testing. I won't go through all of these, but as you can imagine, manufacturing circuit boards, each circuit board gets tested. There's various stages of assembly, subsystem testing, leading into final product testing, and in the case of JDM, activities also providing conformance testing services and compliance services. And I'll just wrap up with this, touching on some of the advancements in manufacturing, really to help bring down costs, and to, as technologies evolve, massive MIMO comes around, doing things like calibration in the factory can take a long time. It can cost a lot of money if you have to have complicated test rigs and cabling systems. So Jabil has developed a number of IP around over-the-air testing to support actual far-field testing for millimeter wave, or near-field testing for calibrating massive MIMO systems. All these things are critical not only for the traditional RAN market, but to successfully move into an open RAN market, where open RAN radios need to grow, the number of variants need to expand, and the volumes need to increase. So all of these manufacturing services and capabilities are essential to successful O-RAN transition. I'm seeing the end, so thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Jim. And really appreciate you making the effort